Hello and welcome back to Mellohi, a DSMP podcast. This is episode 14, and today we'll be discussing the recent Tubbo and Ronbu lore, world research, and fan theories. As always, we'll mostly be referring to the characters by name and specifying when we're talking about the writers, and we're more interested in analysing the characters and why they do what they do. We have a guest today!
Hello!
Also, I have weird audio again because family holiday.
I suppose I should introduce myself. So, hi, I'm Ari. My pronouns are she, her. In terms of fan content, I write analysis posts occasionally and just ramble a lot about characters and plot lines and stuff, but mainly I write fanfiction. It's normally angsty and character dream or prison related. There's very few happy endings in what I write, but yeah, it's cool to be here. Hello.
How did you first get into DSMP?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Well, my friend was interested in it for a while and she would tell me about it a lot, and I kept meaning to get into it and then would kind of put it off, and then she sent me a playlist with all notable lore events in order, and I started watching it, and I was only a few videos into it when she was like, hey, do you want to watch this lore stream live with me? Because I think that's a good way to get into it. So I was like, sure. And it was the final Discord stream, and I didn't know who anyone was, but I was sitting there this is so cool. I don't know what's going on, but it's cool. And then I
had a kind of a similar experience because the first stream I watched live was Techno's November 15th one, and that was the end of the pet war between Sapnap and Tommy, and I had no idea who anyone was or what was going on. I had very vague ideas from seeing stuff online, and I watched Techno's Red Festival video, so I just had no idea what Tommy and Sapnap were even fighting over.
Exactly. It was Puns had his whole, you should have paid me more. And my friend was like, oh my god. And I'm like, I don't know who he is, but cool.
I actually, I didn't even know who Tubbo was until a little bit into season 2.
He was just there.
He was just in my brain. It's oh, that's the guy who's Tommy's friend. And it's weird because now he's one of my favorite characters. And at the start I was like, I like Technoblade and Fundy and Baby Dream, because those were all people I'd watched their YouTube videos before, so I was somewhat familiar with them in a way that I wasn't with most of the other people.
I think Ronbu was the first character that I got super invested in. I was just he is so cool, and I like his story, which meant past me was a little bit of a character dream auntie, and I hate her for that. But
I kind of casually followed Ronbu, and it's kind of funny with how much viewers and subscribers he get now, but
yeah,
during the Butcher Army stuff, I chose to watch his stream instead of anyone else's because I was oh, he's got less viewers than everyone else. Aww. So because it's all going to be the same, I'm going to watch him.
Yeah.
So he gets an extra viewer.
How times have changed.
Tubbo's stream and Techno's stream.
How times have changed.
So I just went with it between Techno's and Ronbu's, and then I really got interested in him on Doomsday. Because I was actually watching his point of view for Doomsday as well, for basically the same reasons, I think. Although I did get kind of interested in... No, you know what, actually, no, it wasn't actually Doomsday. It was a little bit before. Because I noticed in late December, when they were preparing for the festival, he had this thing where he wrote in his memory book about his, ideals and the whole wanting everything to get along thing. And wanting there to be no conflict, and I was that sounds like what Dream has said is his motivations. And then I had this whole theory, because you know how, well, you're newer to the fandom, so back before the, I guess people call it the Gloom Festival or Doomsday, everyone thought that Ronbu was gonna get exposed as a traitor, and Quackity and Tubbo would execute him, and that kind of happened because he did get exposed as a traitor, and Quackity wanted to execute him. But the main theory was that he would join Phil and Techno. And I was what if that, except he joins Dream? And I just, if Enderswell is canon and they're friends, I will be extremely vindicated because I predicted that half a year ago. I'll be able to say I guessed it first. I'm the one who knew.
think the only thing I've ever
So now at this
accurately...
point I'm just waiting, because we've got way more proof that they are friends now.
I think the only thing I've ever accurately predicted was Ronbu asking Sam to put him in the prison. Which I kind of hate that happened, because I was like, yo, it would be so sad if it
that sounds
happened.
like something that would be interesting to talk about before we talk about the recent lore.
It's actually...
people making theories about the Dream SMP.
Yeah, it's actually really funny because you said you got into Rambo and you were a bit of a Dream anti because you were into Rambo. But like, my whole deal was I only knew Dream, and so the reason I got into Rambo's character is because he was somehow connected with Dream.
Fair. I was like, well, my first stream was Final Discord. I was just introduced to Dream as the villain, and I was like, okay, cool.
Dream Manhunt, Dream from Manhunt. I'm
All
sorry,
those people
but
be like,
that was your
apology.
person.
Back to the theory. So it's the thing I've noticed, and this is like isn't just Dream SMP fandom. This is like fandom as a whole. Thing is that people tend to either go for theories that would like make good fanfic, but don't actually make narrative
Makes sense. Yeah.
Like it aborts somebody else's character arc abruptly, or doesn't tie up enough loose threads, stuff like that, or just outright doesn't make sense in the context of the story. Like saying like, you know those ones that are about kids' TV shows? They're like, oh, the kid's actually just in a coma or pretending all the fantasy stuff is real because they're terminally ill. Like all that stuff is that kind of thing, where it's like, I guess it has emotional impact if you're that kind of person, and you can make a fanfic out of it, but does it make sense? It doesn't make sense within the actual like, show itself.
Yeah.
I think people just
and
like...
on the other hand, you have people who think of very technical theories that are just working with what's possible, but don't take into account like story beats and stuff. Like a character technically could do something, but for story reasons it's not going to occur to them because it's more interesting if it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's why I knew Dream wasn't going to die when Tommy tried to kill him in prison, because it just wouldn't make sense story-wise.
Yeah.
At least to me. Because there's this whole plot line going on with the prison that's completely disconnected from Tommy's arc.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it wouldn't make sense. Like, logically, like, in universe, it's entirely possible he could have killed Dream, but from a story perspective, it wouldn't have worked. So I think with theories, you have to sort of craft a balance between seeing things in a more technical way. What is possible in the restraints of the media, and what the characters are capable of, and how willing the story is to go with suspension of disbelief. And then counter that with narrative stuff.
Yeah.
It's my whole prediction about Ronbo and Dream working together was based on the fact that they had similar ideals. And if they have similar ideals, then it's likely that those characters interacting is more likely to create an alliance than it is for them to become enemies.
Yeah, it's the same way that everybody, when Tommy died, everybody knew he was just going to be brought back to life.
Yeah.
No one believed he was dead.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time people just kind of don't realize the difference between like theories and headcanons. They kind of just
not even just headcanons, but like
really good
AUs.
Theories like the Stone Theory, where it's like they've thought out both the technical things, like these characters all have associations with Dream, they're all after the same thing, stuff like that. But also narratively, that you've got like looking at Dream's previous actions and how he behaves quite strategically, and projecting that forward, like how will he act in the future? Are there any plans he might have that we just don't know about yet? So the Stone Theory works on both the level of it's thinking about the story as a story, but it's also going on a technical level. Like a character within the story itself could logically figure out that there was something up if they noticed that a bunch of people who were associated with Dream were collecting stones.
Not that
yeah.
Rambo's associated with Dream,
knew
but
him, like Sapnap might guess that he had a greater plan.
Sapnap's a bit of an idiot.
Because he knows that he's... to be fair, but
I love him, but he's just not... He's not smart. He's doing his best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Theories are interesting. I think they're fun to come up with, especially when you manage to come up with something that's just kind of... One of the things I do think it doesn't... Because, I was talking about, like, narrative predictions and, like, technical predictions. There's this really great feeling where you manage to predict something in a story or, like, a show or something just based on, like, the vibes.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah. That feels
like,
so good.
The new Star Wars show. Bad Batch. I watched it with my dad and my older brother. But in the latest episode, basically in the show, they go to this Imperial base, and I guess, like, the moment I saw it, they're using that to train stormtroopers because they're phasing out clone troopers. And I was able to guess that just based on the fact that earlier at the start of the episode, it's brought up that they are being phased out. And based on the fact that there had to be something different about that outpost for it to be hidden and for something interesting to happen while the characters were there. So you are actually able to predict quite accurately some things using just, like, what makes sense story-wise, but it's not completely reliable.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite pastimes, like, I don't know if it's really a pastime, but if I get really invested in a story and the story is, like, one of those long stories, those epic length novels or fanfics, I like trying to, and there's mysteries happening, I like trying to gather the information from everything that's happened so far, and stuff that's being told and stuff that isn't being told. And again, kind of get the feel for where the story seems to be heading, and then try to piece it all together and make a somewhat short prediction, but vague prediction.
I think probably the best theories are when you get a feeling based on just, like, vibes and knowing how stories work, but then you go and you find factual information,
evidence
in the media that supports your theory, because I think those ones tend to be, like, the best crafted stories, like, the best crafted theories.
It's a nice feeling though when you get it right.
It's just like vindication, especially if it's a theory that not a lot of people believed. Or that in Steven Universe, the theory that, I guess this is Steven Universe spoiler, so if you haven't watched that, skip a few minutes ahead. But the theory that rose quartz was pink diamond, that was really popular at the start of the show, and then declined because there was stuff that seemingly disproved it. But I held on, and then I was proven right, and that just felt so good because there's so many people who abandoned it.
Yeah. Because
they thought there was proof against it, that they believed more. But I was like, no, they're gonna pull a twist on us.
I think something that's funny with the Dream SMP though is you could, like, accurately predict what they wanted to happen. But, like, in a stream they could, like, have this whole story and then someone just does something, like, accidentally, like, sets off something or kills someone, and then it's like, well, now they have to rework the entire, like, plot line because they they changed
something actually I've been thinking about recently about the whole fact that people are like, oh, it's amazing that a bunch of Minecraft streamers could tell this whole, like, roleplay story, but when you think about it, a lot of what they do actually, like, aligns with it already. Like, a lot of what they do, like, bits, these are all, like, improv acting. So it's actually not that surprising that they're pretty good at improv acting, because they already do it to a degree in just usual streams. And I think it's probably no surprise that as, like, people like Dream got more used to streaming, their acting got better.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I still think it's very cool that they, like, managed, really just that they've managed to keep it going for this long. I think that's one of the most impressive things about it.
Origin SMP died in, like, 30 days.
Who knows? Like, the 30-day SMP didn't even die in 30 days. It died in, like, 3.
It didn't die completely because Sneak was still on there, but then it just...
Jack's manifold did go in on the last day of the third
and then, like, died.
And then died.
And he stole an axolotl, and then he died to a creeper.
Sneak is single-handedly just holding all their like, SMPs that they've just made together. Like, he's got his own, like, lore across, like, lots of different SMPs. He's just always the only one left.
So, recent lore, anyone?
Yeah, recent lore. Tubbo has a job now.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about half that stuff. That was that reveal hurt me so much. Like when it was Tubbo, I
I'm
was
kind
like, no.
I'm
Wait.
kind of suspicious about him.
Same.
Because I feel like he switched really quickly, and I think he might be trying to like find out more about Los Gamados and what Quackity is up to.
Yeah.
And that's why he's working with him.
I
I
could
think
definitely
it's
see
Part
that.
of it, I
also-
think, might be the whole wanting a purpose. But
Mm.
he's
But,
always really,
yeah.
like, even in his own streams, he's always very... He doesn't talk about his motivations for doing things very much.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
think-
entirely possible that he's doing it to keep an eye on Quackity. Like, that's why he gives away the cookie outpost, because he doesn't need it anymore. He's got
He's
a place right inside
inside.
Las Nevadas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Closer
That's
than
true.
he's ever been.
I think also part of it is that he heard what Wilbur was doing with Rambo. And so he thought like it might have been a way to keep an eye on both of them without being directly involved with them, which whoops,
Yeah.
looks like they're getting directly involved.
They're in a lover's quarrel. But yeah, I definitely think he like has some ulterior motives with it. But I think there's also definitely some kind of attachment where it's like, this is a new country. I lost my old country. This is my way to kind of regain some
Honestly,
familiarity.
I've really seen the people who are like mad that like he didn't have to have a country to have a purpose before
Yeah.
Lemanberg, and
Yeah.
he kind
Yeah.
of got convinced that he needed a purpose
Yeah.
I also
because of
like,
Lemanberg because he was made president.
Yeah.
I want to say that he doesn't. I don't think he trusts Quackity as much as he's trying to pretend he does. Same thing
I
with
do
Rambo.
really like. I would really like if there was like a twist where it turns out that both Ronbu and Tubbo have just been like tricking Wilbur and Quackity respectively.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly,
People are already saying like there's a good bit of evidence that Ronbu was just going along with Wilbur because he wants to keep an eye on him and make sure he's
Oh, for
really
sure.
changed like he
100%.
said he had. And
Yeah.
obviously, like I mentioned with Tubbo, so it would be kind of funny if like
And they're just
Quackity and Wilbur trying to like turn them against each other only for them to go, you guys know that we were just trying to keep an eye on you. We're not actually like loyal to you in any way.
the amount of people
It's
I've
like,
seen.
what's a comic that's like, oh, why are you scared of children building a cookie?
Yeah.
And it's just like Ronbu
And
and Tubbo. It's like a foolish remembering the shulker deal he made with
Oh,
Ronbu,
yeah.
and Quackity remembering Tubbo standing up to him about the execution. I actually think that's the one it was. I'm pretty sure it's the one I think.
Foolish about to say yes and Quackity making him shut up with an elbow.
I think
Yeah,
people
that's
like
a good comic.
underestimate like Tubbo and Rombu's relationship though, because there's so many people I've seen who are like, oh my god, BGO divorce arc, and it's like,
I really made a
It's-
fan fiction about them called Divorce Arc. That was like where Ronbu remembers that he's friends with Dream and he gets in a fight with Tubbo about it.
I think
Oh wait, if they actually have a divorce arc, I can say I predicted that. Cool.
I think lol. No, I it's weird because well, it's not really weird, but it's one of those things where there's miscommunication going on between the two of them. Tubbo thinks everything is fine, but Rambu's realize that Tubbo doesn't care as much as Rambu does about their
Yeah.
relationship. And that's bothersome, especially with him discovering that hanging out with Wilbur is going to put him in direct opposition with someone he cares immensely about.
yeah.
Hmm.
I don't think it would definitely put a strain on their relationship, but people, I think I don't think they're just gonna like immediately be like, we are on opposing sides, we hate each other now. Like, I feel like if
They're
that,
gonna be kind of like
it would, if they were to ever reach that point,
awkward.
it would be built, it would like be kind of built up to then.
Mhm.
And then everyone's like, what's gonna happen to Michael? I I kept seeing posts about that. I thought they were talking about Michael McChill, and I was like, why is he involved? And then I was like, give him lore, please.
We really need to figure out a way. Like, at the moment, the main one is like, if it's character Michael versus Michael, like you were just, but some people don't know what to use character tags.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just indicate that they're talking about
Just call him Michael McChill.
And in fanfiction, you can't do it.
Yeah.
He has McChill behind his name for a reason.
Yeah, that might be a way to do it.
Like what I posted.
If you're describing him in like an analysis post or anything, say Michael McChill.
Yeah.
And you're writing fanfiction, maybe have people call him like Mike or something. If you need a shortened name.
I got like multiple comments on my fic about Michael McChill being like, I thought this was about the piglin, and I was like, that would have been impressive, dude. That would have been a way more interesting story if Michael, the little piglin, blew up Los Nevadas.
Yes.
I mean, actually, that would work as like one of those AUs that goes forward, like, 10 years.
I could see that.
And it's like in the future, but like, you know, like, it's like the 10 years in the future, but everything's still mostly the same. Except some developments. That could actually work with him like blowing it up to try and stop the whole fighting and have like Wilbur continues his burger ban until it's a new country or whatever. That would actually be interesting.
Yeah. Michael TNT.
God. Wilbur and Crockety's relationship. Yeah, I don't care about him. Fuck you.
I know, their relationship confuses me so much. They're like, I hate you, you're not allowed in my country, but now you are.
Wilbur feels alive when he's interacting with Quackity, because in his eyes, Quackity is treating him genuinely. He doesn't, when other people are nice to him, he doesn't trust that.
Oh yeah, it's like sympathy.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He believes that they should hate him. Which, to be honest, yeah, like, they kind of should, but, like...
Yeah.
And, like, for instance, like, Tubbo doesn't trust him. I think that's, like, a reasonable thing. But he thinks that everyone should be acting like Quackity is. So he feels like Quackity's the only person being genuine with him and making him feel like he's alive.
Yeah.
He's not wrong, considering how much Rambo's been, keeping from him and stuff.
And even Tubbo as well, not mentioning that Dream blew up Lamamberg with Techno and Phil.
The moment he mentions Dream's his hero.
Oh. Bruh. I don't know, it's just so funny to me, like, Wilbur just being, like, annoyed that he didn't blow up Lamamberg the second time.
Because, like, this is the guy who said my Lamamberg, and then he blew it up.
Exactly. I do not trust who he idolizes, especially when it's a person who he villainized in the first place.
Like there's this quote that like content creator Wilbur said when we made his character, there's like this dark and twisted sense of possession and what is his right. I might be quoting that slightly incorrectly, but you get the vibes.
Yeah.
Where he has this sense that if something is his, then he can do whatever he wants with it, essentially.
Oh yeah.
You kind of see that with Tommy in the Pogtopia arc.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because in that arc, Wilbur is trying to make Tommy essentially follow along in his footsteps. To be the same as he is.
Wilbur, leave the children alone, Charlotte.
See, everybody talks about how Dream, quote-unquote, manipulated all the miners on the server. First off, what do you mean?
Because Tubbo doesn't count because that was politics. If you want to say Dream was manipulating Tubbo, you gotta admit that they were manipulating each other. I was like,
there was just a lot of manipulation going on there.
So if you discount the political stuff...
manipulated teenagers, he's got what? Okay.
He's got one. He has one person underneath his belt that's underneath like 18.
Everyone says he
three, depending on how well he's manipulating Ranbu.
Yeah.
He's not. It's Endersmile. We don't have proof he's been manipulated. We just know they've been talking. That's it.
Makes me annoyed when they say
talking does not equal manipulation,
then
guys.
Quackity, Tubbo, purpled.
Yeah.
So Quackity is 2 out of 4. Wilbur is fucking 3 out of 4.
The manipulating teenagers contest so far.
Wait, let's go.
Quackity might be catching up to him. We haven't really seen if he's manipulating Tubbo yet.
Mm.
Because
He
he's
did
definitely
kind of.
influencing him, but I wouldn't call it manipulation yet.
Yeah.
It might be in the
It's-
future.
He didn't
I
really
would call the stuff he did
behind with
during
only one manipulated
Butcher Army
teenager.
manipulation.
So many people say like Dream manipulated Ranbu. Like when?
No.
When
They
did this
talked
happen?
twice in canon.
Yeah, and also it was like
They
a
haven't even
voice in
talked twice
Ranbu's
in canon.
head.
No. You know what happened? What happened is there's some non-canon stuff, like when he dies, Dream kills him when he first gets on the server,
Mhm.
Oh.
and it's never been brought up. I don't see it as canon because you think
Oh,
that
neither.
the guy who hates Dream would bring up the fact that Dream attacked him when he joined the server
Yeah, it definitely.
at some
it
point.
was
So it's not, I don't see it as canon because
It was a bit.
canon. People
It
would
was
talk
it was
about
one
it
of
more.
those non-canon
just
bits
funny.
because it's never
Yeah.
referenced again.
Like I don't think any of the
Um,
original like first staffs when people came on were canon because it was always just like, this is your first
Like,
staff. Welcome.
Obviously, Charlie's first day has been retconned so hard.
I know
So,
there
yeah.
is that theory that it's like there was like a real Charlie Slimesicle. He got shot in space, but Charlie Slimesicle saw him and then took on his shape, and I think that is cool.
Oh,
that
that
is actually cool.
But getting back to what we were talking about,
The manipulating
Wilbur,
minors
3 out of 4.
competition.
Yeah.
Woo!
So Dream is lagging behind with only a 1.
Mhm.
Crocodile's a 2, might be catching up with a 3, and Wilbur holds the record with 3 manipulated teenagers.
And the only reason he hasn't reached 4 out of 4 is because he hasn't met Purple yet.
Yeah. Also find like Wilbur's manipulation is a lot more subtle and like constant. Like it's just like little things like him kind of
A lot of it, he
Like,
contradicts himself a lot. Like Apple made a whole like video about it, showing just like 3 of the times he's
Yeah.
contradicted himself since he came back.
oh yeah.
But yeah, like during his entire conversation with Tubbo, he kept putting himself above him.
Yeah, and he
Yeah,
kept like
I tried-
changing everything to be
I
about
saw
him
someone
himself.
who was like a Wilbur apologist saying, "Oh, he's just doing that because it's how he feels heard when he's speaking." Like, do you understand that that's just that is the point we are making? Like, Tommy
Mhm.
Tubbo is trying to talk about his trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and Wilbur is trying to put himself above him and say that what he's saying is more important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even
Yeah.
like even him saying like, "Oh, Tubbo, I'm so glad that you can still forgive me despite what you're going through," and it's like, this isn't about you, dude. Like I
I
get
think
like
some good analysis about how he's seeking sort of the idea of redemption without actually putting the work in.
I think his ideas of redemption is that he just like he has to like kind of you don't have to
Apologize.
make up for what you do, just kind of suffer as much as you cause other people to suffer. So he like constantly kind of brings up the fact that he was in limbo for all this time, so people go, "Oh, hey, he's been through a lot.
Yeah, but
He's
suffering
we
doesn't
can
change people.
he's probably better
It's
now."
not for the better.
He tries to
Yeah.
like make himself like very sympathetic a lot of the time, almost as if to prove like I've changed, but in reality he's not changed.
It's very much the same as he's always been. Just
Which
probably
is
a good bit more
unsurprising
traumatized.
when he was alone for him with just
And I can't
himself
do the whole
for 13 years.
alone thing.
That would probably fuel someone's like self-centered nature a bit because they don't have anyone else but
Yeah, he
themselves.
hasn't had any practice in thinking about considering other people in 13 years. So
Yeah.
when he's talking to Tubbo, it probably doesn't even occur to him to try and listen to what Tubbo is saying. He's only thinking about himself because that's all he's been thinking about for 13 years.
Yeah. It's just frustrating though because Tubbo's about as emotional competent as Dream, in which he's not, and he never talks about his trauma, and he always brushes it off as just something that's happened to him, and that he's okay with it now. So hearing him talk about the fact that he still has
like,
nightmares about
Character
it.
Dream, character Tubbo, character Techno, handshake, never talking about their trauma.
Yeah. And I think for Tubbo, it's like a case of him kind of feeling like other people have been through worse, so he shouldn't be able to like talk about it.
Which
so
is
then
a stupid idea.
Exactly. But then him opening up only for Wilbur to kind of try and make it about himself is only going to like fuel that kind of like conditioning that he's done on himself and just make him not want to open up anymore and even
Get
help
the dirty
Wilbur.
crime guy away from our faves.
Exactly. Protect them all.
I don't know, actually, I think he deserves to do more crime. It will be funny.
Honestly, let Tubbo
He can do more
blow up.
crimes just with
He's gonna
different
blow
people,
up, He's
please.
gonna blow up Las Nevadas, and it will be funny.
Let Tubbo blow up some stuff. Like, just let him get his other nuke and just go wild with it. I don't know.
See, like, I don't mind Dirty Crime Boy doing more crimes, but he's just doing the same crimes to the same people over and over again. He has more people to pick from now. He has
Find some new crime
How long do you think it's gonna take before Wilbur starts calling Quackity a tyrant?
Probably not long. Do you think Quackity would tell Tubbo about what he's doing at the prison?
No.
I don't think
Never.
so.
Never. He was very scared of the prospect that Tommy knew something was happening in the prison. So no, it's not gonna happen.
And he was very hesitant when telling Foolish that he was visiting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if he were to ever tell anyone about it, it would be like after he's killed Dream. You're like, hey, I did it. I tamed the beast. He's dead now. That would be the most underwhelming speech ever, but you know, this is why I don't do lore. I can't speak. I'm sorry.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Mellohi Spotlight. We are here once again to drop the names of some amazing content creators in the Dream SMP fandom for you to check out. As always, this Spotlight section is our way of bringing more of the wonderful fan content creators in the community to the attention of our audience, whether that's an artist, a writer, a theorist, or an analyst. We know that a big part of what makes the Dream SMP fandom unique is because of how many talented individuals we have who contribute to bringing the world of the Dream SMP to life, beyond that of a simple block game roleplay. This week our creator of choice is Frayed, or Winifred? I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong. They're an amazing artist on Twitter who's done really amazing artwork of a variety of characters. In particular, they have a really cool design for Dream as I think it's a White Enderman hybrid. All I know is that it's their banner, and it's ridiculously awesome. The lighting and shading on it is beautiful, and I happened to get lucky enough to see some of their update and work in progress photos as they were making it, and I fell more and more in love every time. Another really wonderful piece that they did was one with character Wilbur and red strings that he's using on Tubbo, Rambo, Tommy, Quackity, Techno, and Dream as sort of a symbolic way of showing his manipulation, influence, you know. It's a really dramatic and wonderful piece of art, and the symbolism in it is really powerful stuff to think about. So go and drop them a follow at Winifred, WINIFREYD on Twitter. Before we get back to the episode, if you have any content creators that you think deserve the spotlight, make sure to let us know by either dropping a comment below one of our YouTube videos or through our Twitter. The more amazing content creators you share with us, the more amazing content creators we can share with everyone else. See you next time, back to the episode.
I want to talk about Rambo.
Oh yeah.
Rambo, my beloved.
Absolute beloved.
I prefer all Rambo fans here.
Yeah. Rambo's
just
great. Have
Okay.
Rambo themed shoes.
Can I just say he makes for the absolute best spy ever. He's
Definitely.
constantly underestimated. He has a terrible memory, but because of that, no one really thinks of him as someone that's dangerous, someone that they should put their guard up around. He's very friendly, and he knows how to
tells him things that he's not confident talking about because
He thinks he'll just forget it.
He's
He'll
like,
forget.
oh, Rambo will just forget it.
Yeah.
Which is like not
He's-
great for their relationship, but you know, good for finding out information that you're not meant to know.
Yeah. He's also... It's very easy to get along with him because he knows what to say to get people to like him. He adjusts
Exactly.
himself to
And,
fit
like,
other people's expectations.
It's so weird for me when people keep portraying Ender Walking Rambo as like this sleepwalking or mind-controlled guy.
It's just Rambo but sassy.
Literally.
Like, have you not
the
watched the Shulker deal?
Like,
Because it's like one of the most important pieces of most important things we have about Enderby. It's the best. It's the most we've seen of him in action, actually talking to people. It's the most we've seen of what Ranbu's personality is like when he's ender walking, and he just negotiates so well with Foolish.
He assures Foolish of his worries. He talks about contingencies plans. He says that I'm very good at convincing other people to do stuff.
Honestly, it'd be funnier was like if Dream and Ranbu had talked before XLR. If Dream was like, Ranbu, can you give me manipulations lessons? Because I'm really bad at it. Can you help me manipulate Tommy? And then I know walking Ranbu was like, okay, so first rule of the book, is pretend to be someone's friend and then stab them in the back. And Dream was like, okay, don't need any more, I'll go with that.
Yeah. I know, like, there's like that one time where like Phil was like interacting with like Enderview, and like he was like Ranbu was just like typing in chat in like the Ender language, and everyone was like, oh my god, what's he saying? And then he was just like
saying,
being
hey,
super
Phil.
sassy. It's like, hey Phil, do you need any help? What do you want this? And it's like he's
Hey,
literally
Phil, just buying
like,
some quartz here.
like creator Ranbu has tried so hard to like convince people that like the Enderwalk isn't inherently evil, and everyone's just like, no.
At this point, you're gonna see like the Enderwalk is gonna he's gonna have an entire stream in Enderwalk that's
You're just not
explicitly in
gonna notice.
Enderwalk,
I'm gonna go pick some flowers. Just
and
fine.
he's gonna like walk up, and he's gonna like say to Dream, rescue Dream from prison, and say, "Thank you, Dream, my dear good friend. I am so glad that our plan together worked before the torture started happening. Let's go blow up Las Solanas together." And then Dream was like, "I don't know. Do you really think that's a good idea?" And then Ranbu was like, "Absolutely. Let's go do it. I have a lot of TNT." And Dream was like, "Okay, if you want to do it, then let's do it."
CPK said if he joined the Dream
And,
SMP,
like,
he would just
they do
blow
that.
up the prison, and I think we should let him, please. It's
And then
been so
people
long.
are still gonna say that Ranbu was being mind controlled and manipulated.
Yeah, like how? Where did Dream get this magic mind control power from?
You know, it's one of the most annoying things with Dream's characters. Like when people assume stuff, like people are like, "Oh, he can't be redeemed because he's never shown remorse for his actions." Like, you don't have his perspective. You don't know if he's ever felt remorse for his actions or if he's ever
Where is
regretted
this
what he's done.
magical dream
He's
You don't
also-
know
lore
if he
that you
has or
have?
not.
That
He's
you have
also,
access
like-
You
to
have
that we
some
don't?
mysterious secret dream lore stream where it's
He's
from
also-
his full perspective, and he talks about how he doesn't regret a single thing he's done.
That man is the
he just listen to what he
MVP
says
of...
to his mortal enemies and take that as fact. Instead
That
of the
man
stuff
is
that
like-
he says to his allies, which Writer Dream has confirmed to be true.
Exactly.
And you just ignore that.
That man is MVP of like emotional repression, dude. Like, no, you don't know how he feels. And also, I love like people always take things like him saying stuff like, oh, his whole like cutting all attachment thing where he's like, I'm gonna cut all my attachments or whatever. They're like, he doesn't care. And I'm like, people just say stuff sometimes in the heat of the moment to seem like threatening or whatever. That doesn't mean they actually do the thing or succeed in
And people
doing
use
it.
hyperbole all the time.
Literally.
Someone will say like, "Oh, I always thought that." No, you didn't. You didn't think that when you were 3 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
People
so many
exaggerate all the
characters do that. It's like, it's just exaggeration.
Like,
It shouldn't be
when
taken as
Dream
fact
said
unless proved
That he
to be
didn't
true.
care. He meant that he wasn't going to let Tommy's blackmail affect him.
Yeah.
But
When he
no,
said he
that
didn't
was
care about
awful of
anything on
him.
the server, he said that he wasn't going to let anything that he's attached to be used against him.
Yeah.
And
He
also, I
cut-
think people mess this up. Being attached to something is not the same as caring about something. You can care
Yeah.
about something and not be attached to it. Attachment means you fear losing it. Can you tell I'm a
Yeah.
Star Wars fan?
I like it more. It's more logical that the reason he kind of cut ties with his friends and stuff was so they wouldn't get
He
involved in what he
didn't
was
cut
doing.
ties though. His
Yeah.
friends cut ties with him. Like
Oh,
this
good point.
literally on the same day as the spirit speech, I believe, when he goes Sapnap, or like the day after the spirit speech, Sapnap goes through this entire arc of basically reconfirming his fears that Dream doesn't care about him, and then refusing to accept what Dream was saying during the dethronement, where he's like, immediately takes everything he said about not caring about his friends back, but Sapnap just doesn't listen. George isn't helping matters, Quacken isn't helping matters, and Sapnap's already made up his mind that Dream doesn't care about anything.
Yeah. Sapnap
So
is very
nothing he
much
said
just
got
sort of, he's told like one perspective and he just runs with it, and he doesn't like consider that things are different. And I think like, especially now, like, he seems to kind of, it's easier for him to just like villainize one person and one friend than like accept the
It's how
fact
he can
that other
justify his
people.
actions to himself.
Yeah,
If he thinks
except-
that Dream betrayed them, if he thinks that Dream
Yeah.
is just evil and needs to change,
It's
then
easier
he
than
can justify
accepting
his
that like,
actions of turning against Dream just based on what Tommy said, of standing by while Tommy killed him twice over this confrontation. He can
Yeah.
justify that as long as Dream is evil and as long as Dream is the one who betrayed him.
yeah,
If he
and
accepted that Dream wasn't just evil and that he was the one who turned on Dream first for something he didn't even know was true, then we would also have to accept that he was wrong in those situations.
And that he was a bad friend, and that he was a bad person.
yeah, and I think also it's easier for him to just like blame everything on one friend than accept the fact that more people he cares about have done crappy things. It's just like, I will just, looks at Quackity. Hello.
You ever think
Honestly, like, it's so weird to me when people are like, oh, Dream is irredeemable.
Like, what?
And then they like Sam's character and they like Quackity's character and they think they're redeemable.
Like, I don't...
Buddy, if you think Exile Art is bad, then I'm assuming you also think that torturing someone and cutting off their arm for out-of-date keycards is bad. I assume you understand that manipulating teenagers and destroying their homes is bad.
Yeah, like
I'm
everyone's...
assuming you know this. You know, since
like
you don't like XLR, you think XLR was a bad thing to happen to Tommy, but I suppose it only matters when it's Tommy.
Yeah,
but like,
that's the thing. That's the fandom mindset.
To Purple or to Punk, it doesn't matter.
They don't care if it happens as long as it doesn't happen to their quote-unquote favorite. Like, nobody would be saying that kind of shit about prison if Tommy was the one who was stuck in there and facing all that treatment.
I mean,
Tommy
no one
was
supposed to make that. Like, there are so many things people say about the prison that, like, you just know that if you apply them to Exile, you'd have people going at you for days. Your account would probably on Twitter would probably be suspended if you put it there, and you'd be like beg posted to hell and back if you posted it on Tumblr.
Tommy or
like seriously, if anyone's listening to this and does think the person is a good thing, and you're listening to this for some reason, like you want to see like the other half of it, imagine someone saying that Tommy is only acting sad in exile because he wants to manipulate Dream into letting him go back to Lamamber.
It's not a good argument.
It's so shit.
Like, if it was anyone else, like Dream or like, no, not Dream, Tommy or like Wilbur could be in the prison being tortured by Quack, and I swear to God, people would be like, Dream's making him do it. Dream is making him do it. He's not even here.
People only cared about what Sam did when he started to yell at Tommy, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I mean, I guess Ghostspur, people like Ghostspur, so.
Yeah.
That was also a factor, but you told a whole bunch of posts right after this. How dare Sam yell at Tommy?
But like, people just don't care.
To the prison that 2 people have died in.
People just don't care about like Dream, like at all.
They don't care about anyone but Tommy.
Exactly. I got a comment on my fic where like I did kill Dream F, and someone was like, yeah, it was kind of deserved though, and I was like, excuse me. What?
Excuse me, what are you doing on my angst fic for angst people, for Sea-Dream, people who have emotional attachments to Sea-Dream and will feel pain when he dies? What are you doing here?
Yeah. They didn't even compliment my writing. How rude of them. They're just like, he deserved
people
that.
Have this,
go
like,
away.
this whole like retributive justice. When someone does a bad thing, doing the same thing back to them but worse does not make you a good person.
No,
It's the opposite, actually.
exactly. The moral high ground is just kind of like moving on, or like
Or trying
not
to actually like,
torturing
get to
someone.
the root of the problem. If someone hurt you, you are ideally someone else because they did hurt you.
Yeah.
With somebody figuring out why that person did that and getting to the root of the problem and figuring out what that is and then solving that. People didn't just like randomly decide to like murder each other. Like even serial killers have like their own justifications for stuff. People don't just randomly decide to do stuff. They've always got motives, even if the motives are kind of stupid.
Yeah, they do it for a reason. It's like, yeah,
he got called an abuse apologist for saying that Dream's character had motives and justified his actions to it himself.
It's dumb. The whole like
apparently saying that abusive characters and abusive people have reasons for their actions is the same as saying that those actions were right. I am sorry, but having a motive for something does not mean that it's good.
The whole like abuse apologist argument is so just weird.
I don't understand. Like, this has never been a problem in any of the other fandoms I've been in, and I have been in fandoms where abuse was part of the story. Like, it was part of the story, and people discussed the character and whether they liked him or not.
But fandoms, but it usually tends to lean more towards a minority opinion instead of the majority. In the Dream SMP. Like, it's usually a few people, and often it is people who have been in abusive situations themselves and are projecting themselves onto the character.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. Like, you can do that, that's fine. It's how you're enjoying the media, but I don't understand why people are calling other living human beings abuse apologists just because they want to argue for why this person did what they did. Like, again, even in fandom, in a previous fandom I've been in, I wasn't super deep into it, but just in this one Discord server, we argued about the motivations behind this one character's actions, and he was abusive to his family, but we were talking about why he was doing that, and none of the people in the server, even those who did not like the character, who hated that character very much, probably like maybe because they were in an abusive situation, they never called any one of us abuse apologists, because that's just stupid.
Be like, I used to be a Star Wars fan again. Like, in a Star Wars fandom, there's a bunch of different interpretations of Darth Vader or Anakin Skywalker, whichever name you prefer to use, ranging from more sympathetic to far less sympathetic. But I've never seen anyone like fighting over it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've never seen people being attacked.
I have a different interpretation than you. I think you're wrong, so I'm just not going to talk to you.
Wanting to understand.
Agree to disagree.
Wanting
to see him more sympathetically, they see him as a tragic character. Other people go, well, yeah, I see that, but also he murdered a bunch of kids.
Yeah. Like, so many of my posts where I talk about...
Yeah, but in the end, he did kill the Emperor, so obviously he understands what he did was bad. And other people are like, well, he was involved in, like, the whole Empire thing, and that's a bad thing. And other people are like, well, he didn't really have a choice, did he? Because he was reliant on the Emperor for his cybernetic suit. And there is like discussion about it, you know? But I've never seen it get to the level of saying like that someone themselves is a bad person because they have a differing interpretation of a character.
Like, so many of my posts where I talk about character Dream, I say stuff like, yeah, he did bad things and probably deserved to face some repercussions for that, but here is why he might have done that, or here is why what he is facing now is far beyond what should be acceptable. Like, wanting to understand why someone acts the way they do does not mean that you support what they're doing. And I don't know why that's such a seems to be such a difficult concept.
Right now. All areas of life, even if there's somebody that you incredibly disagree with that holds incredibly like bigoted ideals, I think it's important to understand why they think that way, because if it's somebody who just has like a different idea to you, then maybe you'll understand why they do it, and you might even realize that they're more right than you are. If it's someone who's like a bigot, you understand why, but you have a better argument against them or people who are kind of like them in the future.
Yeah.
Like you
I
want
don't
to argue against like people who deny climate change. Understanding why they think that way is important to argue against people who maybe aren't sure if climate change is real or not, to convince them that it is okay.
Like I like character Wilbur. I don't really like him that much, and he makes me uncomfortable because it reminds me of people. But like I still want to understand like why people like support him, or why they like would want to be apologists for him, because I think it's good to hear both sides, and I would never go up to one of the like a Wilbur apologist and be like, hey, so you support blowing up countries? I hate you.
You're a Tommy apologist? You support manslaughter?
Support killing cats?
Tubbo
You support
apologist?
waterboarding?
You think
Animal
state-sanctioned
abuse?
executions without trial are a good thing?
You like nukes?
You like quackity? You're a quackity apologist?
Oh gosh.
You support gambling.
And torture.
Capitalism.
You support capitalism. Get out of it. The worst crime of all. Capitalism.
You would blow up a teenager's home? Get away from me.
You would torture people for information?
I also think like I find it really weird like whenever the like argument of like when people choose to say like, oh, it's just roleplay, or oh, that wasn't canon. Like I remember saying that I was uncomfortable with like the cat being killed.
I think something's canon. You have to provide proof for that. Like I was saying, I don't think that Dream attacking Ranboo the moment he joined the server is canon, because I think it would have been brought up by character Ranboo if that was the case, seeing as how his relationship with Dream is. But whenever he's talked about Dream, he's never mentioned that, so therefore I don't think it's canon, because otherwise it would be a very important part of his character and influence his relationship with Dream.
I've had like the argument of like
so I
narrative.
can give a reasoning for why I...
And a reasoning like Wilbur wasn't the one who wrote it does not count.
Yeah. I think like I've said someone like once say like, oh, this thing wasn't canon because it didn't bear narrative weight, which is weird because it did, because it was brought up later. But also, even if it didn't immediately bear narrative weight, the story is like ongoing, so it obviously could in the future end up being a plot point or being involved. Like you can't just write it off immediately. You kind of have to wait until you see what happens later on.
Exactly.
If they ever, when they do lore Dream, please.
It's frustrating because people like Punk and people like Foolish and people, well, it's a little less so with Ranboo, but those people, they're always in character 100% that they're on the SMP.
They so
talk
much
to each other in
lore.
character. They do stuff in character. Everything they do, it's canon.
There are people like Puffy who mostly do non-canon stuff, and they'll specify when they're doing lore. And
exactly.
People like Punk who are almost always doing in character, basically doing very light level lore, who will specify when they're talking out of character.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some of them mumbles over whether stuff is canon or not come from people understanding. Like the whole thing with people getting mad at Puffy for destroying part of Tommy's house and replacing it with, like, I can't remember what she replaced it with, like
American
flag.
British things.
And that wasn't canon.
Yeah, exactly.
And people saw it as canon until Puffy came out to say that wasn't canon, okay?
Yeah. I think
which isn't a really good way of doing roleplay, but you should come up with a more creative way to explain why your character did something out of character.
But I think it's especially weird with like the likes of Puffy, who specifies when she's doing lore, like because then people like you know when it's
I mean, there's also
this
like
Bad Boy
Halo. He also tends to specify when he's doing lore.
Can he do lore? Still waiting for the egg thing to finish.
Okay, his is a really weird case because he sometimes specifies when he's doing lore, and other times he just ends up in lore, and other times he will end lore and come out of lore.
Yeah, he kind of
from what's like a seemingly
hops around with it.
And then actually Technoblade is another similar. Technoblade and Philza, because Techno, pretty much basically every stream he does is lore, but he'll turn donations off if it's serious lore.
Yeah.
And Phil will usually say when he's going to be doing lore, he's going to be doing a little bit of lore, or indicate that in some way that that stream is going to be a lore stream.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it's most of the stuff he does isn't canon, or it's very light background canon in that like he's building stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the Lucretia. Well, writer, like content creator, feels that tidy that up and made it look pretty. In canon, it just developed to be like that over time with like erosion and plants growing.
Yeah.
He didn't, like, character Phil didn't go in to make it look nicer. And the same with Neela Manberg.
Yeah.
He wasn't canonically filling in the crater, it was filling in because of rain. And content creator Phil was just the one doing that.
I think people like choosing like sometimes to like see things as canon that aren't, or vice versa, is like fine on its own if it's just their opinion. I think my only problem is when they try and use that in an argument against someone, like if someone's talking about an event and they're just like, that wasn't canon.
This event is really important to this character, and you're just like, oh no, I don't think that's canon.
Yeah, it's like, well, just
like I said, look, if you genuinely do not think something is canon, you need to have a good argument, like a good solid argument.
Yeah.
Like,
and also,
it was never brought up again, despite the fact that it would be really important if it was.
Yeah, like this, and also just someone talking about an event and a character. Like, if you don't think it's canon, just don't interact with it. Like, there's no need to go and be like, hey, that didn't matter though. Like, just let the person talk about their thing.
I feel like
I think Tumblr is better at not barging in on other people's.
We just vague post.
Twitter you just vague post someone.
Yeah.
It's a tennis match from 20 feet away.
Debates going on. If someone really disagrees with you.
Yeah.
But most of the time, and a lot of the time that stuff sticks to notes instead of reblogs.
I think Twitter is just, it's so easy to interact with people. Just reply or quote tweet them.
It's designed that way.
Yeah. So it's just like, people just kind of feel like they're almost obliged to reply to something.
Tumblr's a blogging platform, so it's designed more for the sharing of content.
Yeah, it's like more of a solo thing that you can occasionally interact, where Twitter's like specifically for the interactions.
Like Tumblr is like if you had your own little newspaper that you could write articles in, and then you could also like run ads from other people's newspapers, and that's what a reblog is.
Yeah.
And then Twitter is like a debate club that's really poorly organized.
You can't really even debate. You have a character limit. Who debates with a character limit?
Twitter, the character limit is so frustrating.
Like, it's a personal problem for me, but when I see someone spread misinformation, I get this insane urge to want to correct them, because usually they probably don't realize that they're spreading something that's basically misinformed. And I want to go and, first off, like, I'll notice it if it contradicts my own information, what I know myself, then I'll go check what they're specifying for, like, I'll go check the VODs, and I'll check the scene they're specifying that they're saying is going to support their argument. So I'll go and check that, and then I'll see if am I right or am I wrong? Like, was I misremembering or were they misremembering? And I would bring that to their attention, and that's how I would debate things if I were to actually debate things. I definitely
there's a problem there's a really high, like, entry barrier for content. So a lot of people that are new to the fandom are really just working on stuff that other people have told them.
And like
current only when you go back to watch the VODs yourself that you might realize that you actually have a different opinion.
Yeah, like there's, for me, like something I like struggle with is that I don't like disagreeing with people or making people annoyed by disagreeing with them. So I just kind of agree with people, but it means that I'll be being told like by different people different points of views, and I'll just be sitting there like, yes, this is all correct. So it means I have like all these like, I'm like aware of like all these differing points of views. I just don't know which one I agree
all the
with.
Different points of view that I can stand looking at, and then I just like fuse them into like one thing that's like, yeah, I think that's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of different interpretations of character dream, and I just kind of take all the bits that make sense to me, and I just merge them all into my own interpretation of him. And same with Wilbur. I go, okay, so I'll take a little bit of Apple's analysis of L'Manberg, and I'll take a little bit of stuff from that one Wilbur apologist that I really, really disagree with, but sometimes they do say stuff that makes sense, so I'm going to take a little bit from them. I'm just going to take a little bit from this other random take I heard that says some stuff that I don't agree with about character Dream, but it does make some good points about character Wilbur. I'm just going to give it a little big stir, and then there's my opinion on character Wilbur.
Like, it all depends on how well you can stomach reading stuff that you viscerally disagree with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly like this kind of character Wilbur and character Dream apologists unite, please. Like, come on, we both like people who have done crimes and blown up countries and manipulated teenagers. All you need to do is accept that your little Meow Meow is also a villain in this
story. There's nothing wrong.
Your little Meow Meow's a fucking bastard.
I think we should also normalize.
How do people think? You know the thing that they do where they say, "Oh, you can't call Wilbur a villain because it's ableist." How do you think people would feel if we started doing that with like character Dream?
Yeah, it's like it's a weird. I think it's a weird.
Being mentally ill does not excuse you of your shitty actions.
It can explain them. It does not excuse it in any way.
Yeah, if you hurt people,
that's very
still bad. No matter what mindset you were in at the time.
Like, let me tell you this: being hurt by a mentally well person and being hurt by a mentally ill person hurts just the same.
Yeah, from experience, being told that, or like feeling like someone is absolved from any wrongdoing because they have like mental health issues. It's a very detrimental narrative to present, and it just invalidates the like feelings of the people that they've hurt.
A lot of people who are maybe manipulative or abusive, they're often struggling with their own mental health problems that make it harder for them to see the impact that their actions have. And that doesn't mean their actions aren't hurting people. It doesn't mean they're evil either.
Yeah, it's a grey area, and that's what most of the SMP is.
You know what? I think that's the problem with some character overpowered. So, Dream's character is manipulative and has been abusive, and that's bad. And then they look and they see similar behaviors in Wilbur's character, and they go, "Oof, I do not want my favorite character to be bad, but he's mentally ill." And obviously, character Dream is completely mentally healthy. I say completely
/sarcastic.
Yeah, that one has got a lot going on.
Basically, they hate character Dream, they like character Wilbur, they don't want to admit the similarities between them, so they say Wilbur's actions can be excused because he was mentally ill, and they don't actually think about like the whole root of the problem.
Yeah.
Like the problem of how Wilbur behaves and how he hurts people isn't going to be solved by everyone just like forgiving him and being nice to him.
Yeah.
It's going to be worked by someone like Nikki or someone slapping him in the face and saying, "Hey, I know you're mentally ill, but your actions are still hurting people. Stop
let Nikki slap Wilbur across the face."
Like, you know how he likes it when Quackity argues with him, when Quackity stands up to him, when he says he's not gonna take Wilbur's shit? That's what he needs. He needs someone else to do that to him. Someone like, I want him to go up to Nikki, I want him to show him that he still kept her diamonds, and I still want Nikki to fucking punch him in the face.
Oh my god, please.
And that seemed like a good place to wrap up. We are out of time, and that was episode 14.
Yee.
Thank you for joining us. No god, the lore.
It's ramping up, and I am scared. But thank you very much for having me. It was very cool.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks for listening to the 14th episode of Mellohi, and we hope you enjoyed it. If there's any topic you'd like to hear us discuss, feel free to leave a comment or find us on Twitter at Mellohi Podcast. We can also ask us questions or just get updates about new episodes. See you next time!